Hello folks, hope you're all doing well. We are back here in the shed to get some seed sowing done. I hadn't planned on being here this week. I had planned on being at the plot, but I don't know, probably much like everywhere else in the UK at the moment, we've had some really weird weather over the past week. We've had torrential snow, and then within a day or two it's all melted. We've had rain, and outside there today we've still got a weather warning in place, and it's probably about 10-11 degrees in there, so I've got my shirt sleeves on because it's nice and warm. But then temperatures are supposed to drop down again overnight to sort of, I think, is it -3 tonight? And again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. But we'll talk about that a little bit in with some of the seeds. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you 4 different techniques that I'm going to be using to sow different types of seeds to hopefully maximise space and give us the best results as we move forward into the springtime. So what I'll do is I'll get you set up here, as always, pointing down so you can see what's going on the sort of tidy area there. We'll get some seed sowing done and we'll see how we're getting on. So back with you in just a jiffy. Right, so I'm here. Hopefully you can see all of this, and as always not me, because it's more important what's going on around and about here. And I do have a few things prepared in this area for a change, so I've got all my labels written out. But the first thing we're going to do, this sort of seed sowing technique, a bit of broadcast sowing. And one of these little trays are absolutely brilliant. I use these for loads and loads of stuff. And all I'm going to do is pop some compost in there. And again, there's no secret to this mix that I use. This is Melcourt Silver Grow, the compost, and all the little white flecks, I think I should call them, mixed in there as perlite, just to kind of help with the moisture management inside the compost there in the seeds. So we're going to broadcast sow these ones here, Brussels sprouts, Braemar F1. Hopefully you can see them there. The light isn't the best in here. Braemar F1. Braemar's quite a late sort of variety of Brussels sprouts, so just in time for Christmas. So if I get these sown now, I'll be ready for Christmas. And one thing that you've noticed, I've just put the tray on top of the compost. What I'm going to do is move it to this gap over here, so when I'm broadcast sowing, and broadcast sowing is just a fancy word for sprinkling, so I'm just sprinkling the seeds there. And the reason I've moved it over here is because I don't want to sprinkle accidentally any seeds into the compost that I'm going to use there. So I've just sprinkled it on top of there, and then another layer of compost on the top there. That layer that I'm putting on the top there, you know, your maybe's only about, I don't know, 1/2 centimetre maybe. And we just dampen it down just a little bit there. Just fill in the corners and this little gap here. And as always, you see, I said I'm a little bit prepared to say, look, I've got my labels and they're already written out, ready to go. So we're going to pop that there. And these little trays, you can buy them separately from the shops, and this one here came from the set that I've got with the Super 7 propagator, which is the heated propagator. Now the Brussels sprouts aren't going to go in the heat. None of these things that I'm doing today are going to go in the heat. But I mentioned just earlier, I'm looking for somewhere to put this. I've got no space. Let me put it down over here. I did mention earlier about the weather. So the overnight temperatures around here are going to drop right down to -3, -4, -5 over the next few days. So these are going to follow me inside, but that's just while those temperatures are really, really low. Once they start to creep back up midweek, all these things will be finding themselves into the unheated greenhouse. One of the little small greenhouses. I'll come to greenhouses at the end. For the rest of the week. So we're not keeping them inside for very long at all. So that's how I'm going to do them in the little trays there with the broadcast sowing. So the next one I'm going to do is multi-sow inside these cell trays. Now these cell trays, this sort of one here, are from Containerwise. I'm a big fan of the Containerwise cell trays. They're sort of this really hard, really well-lasting plastic. They will last years and years and years and years and years. And they do all sorts of different shapes and size. This one here is new to me this year. It is designed by Hugh Richards. Some of you might know, he's got a huge YouTube channel out there. And what I really like about these is they've got 2 definitive halves there, which are going to work really well for what I'm about to sow. So I'm just going to pile the compost in here. Let's make sure it's in all the cells. And then once it's about done, I'm just going to press it down ever so lightly with 2 fingers in each cell, just to make sure there's enough compost in each one and there's no air pockets and things like that. So there's 1 or 2 there. That one just needs a little bit extra, not too much, and I think we're pretty much good to go. And what I'm going to do with these ones is spring onions. And I've got two different types. This one here is called Katana. A new variety I'm trying this year, and I had to buy Katana ones because my young boy Robbie, who loves to play Fortnite, there's a new sword in Fortnite called a Katana, and he saw these with the garden centre yesterday. And he saw these at the garden. I'll just tear that off. He saw these at the garden centre yesterday and thought, right, we have to get them because that's the name of the sword in Fortnite. So anything that encourages him or any sort of kids to get involved in growing their own food, learning about the garden, the outdoors, anything like that is absolutely fine by me. So we've got some unexpected Katana spring onions, and I'm going to multi-sow into each of the cells. So in this half, I'm aiming to get, so these are bunching spring onions, so, you know, maybe, I don't know, about 5 in each cell. So I'm just guessing I mean, it doesn't matter. If some cells you get 3, some cells you get 7, you know, it's not the end of the world. You can always thin them out if there's too many, or, well, you can't really add some more in once they're grown, but if you've got a smaller bunch, it doesn't really matter. And I'm only doing this cell tray here, so how many have we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so 10 bunches of the Katana, and I've got some Ishikura there. I'll not repeat the process there with the Ishikura showing you, because it's going to be exactly the same, but I'm just going to sprinkle that on top so we cover up those seeds that we've just planted there. And I use this multi-sowing for quite a few things. I use it for beetroot as well, so Charles Dowding's a big fan of doing the multi-sowing beetroot, and I sort of learned from his channel to do that, and it usually turns out pretty good. So I use this technique for quite a few things, and it's brilliant for spring onions. And I've got a label here, don't let me down, there it is, spring onion Katana. And that's the other thing I like about these cell trays being split in 2 different halves. I only need to use one label, pop it in there. So I'll do the Ishikura down here, and I'll come back to you in just a jiffy when we're going to do the next batch of sowing. Right, so the next thing I'm going to be using is one of these, and these are deep root trainers, or root trainers you hear them called. Well, look, there you go, they pop out. Now, I mentioned earlier on Container Wise, and I love their stuff. The one thing I can't get away with Container Wise is their root trainers. I much prefer these ones where they open up like this. I just find them easier to use, no other reason than that, than the Container Wise ones. And the whole idea behind these is anything that needs a really deep root to grow that comes out. I generally do peas, beans, and that sort of stuff in these, and it's very much like the cell trays. I mean, I'm just gonna pile the compost on there, and you can see these are taking a lot of compost into them. There's an awful lot going in to each of these little root trainers, but again, that's because they're so much deeper than the others, and again, we'll give them a little bit of a push down. And what we are going to pop into these when all that's pushed down, and we'll give it a little bit of a tidy up around the edge there, just so it looks a little bit smarter, is some sweet peas. And I've grabbed them for me here. So sweet peas have a really hard shell in them, so these have been soaking in some sort of lukewarm water just for a couple hours. Then just putting my fingers in there, I can tell you that the water isn't really very lukewarm, and what it does, it just starts to sort of soften that hard outside shell on it. And all I'm going to do is pop one single sweet pea seed inside each of these, and because they're wet, they're sticking to my fingers, which makes it a little bit tricky. So I'll finish popping these in so it doesn't look silly, these being stuck to my finger, and I'll come back to you in just a minute there. And there we have it. So one seed in each cell, and I'm going to do exactly the same as the others. We're just going to top these off with another little layer of compost, and we're just going to dust these off, and again, just push them down a little bit. And one thing to mention is I will be watering all of these, because the compost is moist anyway, but I will be watering them all at the end. I've got my trusty iron brew bottle here ready to go, so they'll all be getting a good watering right at the end there. But again, I don't want to bore you with me doing the watering. Let me just move these out of the way and come back to you. And as always, oh no, I don't have a label for these. Oh man, I'm gonna have to apologise. Tell you what, I'll write it at the end. Another one done. And just before we move on to the last technique, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's absolutely free. Just click the button down below, the red button down below, and if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up and all that good stuff, comments and what have you. I'll not bore you with that stuff too much. Anyway, last but not least, this is just a bog standard cell tray. These are tiny little cells. There are 60 cells in one of these trays. This is another one from Container Wise. This was a Charles Dowding sort of collab, I guess, between the two of them to come up with a tray of this type. And I'm not going to fill this entirely because I want to do this sort of successional sowing. All I'm going to use is probably this part of the tray, and I'm going to do some lettuce. Now I'm going to do one of these seeds per cell, and you might think that's a bit odd for lettuce, which generally it usually is. For ones like this, like the little gem over here, or the other one I've got there, which is the Barcelona the iceberg, I would use that broadcast technique that I showed you right at the start in one of these trays to get loads of lettuce on the go. But this is pelleted seed inside here. Lettuce seeds are tiny. They're really, really difficult to get hold of. But every now and again, you get these, which are pelleted seeds, and they are dead easy to pick up and pop into each individual cell. And that just saves me a little bit of faffing about by popping them in the individual cells. The only issue I can see with these ones are that it's pelleted white and perlite is white. So you've just got to keep a track of which seed you're putting in which cell. And again, compost on the top. Let's not get perlite mixed up with our pelleted seed, and we're just going to do that technique of just squashing it down just a little bit inside, a bit extra on the top there, a little bit too much, squashing it down inside the cells. And as I mentioned before, we'll give them a good water at the end there, and hopefully, yes, I've got the label for these ones, so we'll pop the label in there and we know what's what. Right, that's the sowing technique pretty much done. A couple of things to update you on. I'll whiz you around, back with you in just a jiffy. Right, so there you have it, 4 different techniques. So it's just a case of thinking about what it is you're growing and then using the best sort of cell tray or toilet roll tube or root trainer, whatever it is you've got for that particular type of seed. One thing to mention is I'm still working on a greenhouse project for outside down there, so I've definitely outgrown this area. Honestly, there are seed trays, gravel trays, pots, things, stuff, canes, lotions, potions, whatever, everywhere over here. There is too much for inside the shed, which is also used for all the family stuff, toys, bikes, tools, all the usual stuff that you find in the shed. So I've outgrown it and I need another space. So we've got a plan anyway, so watch out for stuff on that coming soon within the next couple of months. We'll get some videos put together for that. Anyway, that's me done for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one. Bye for now.